I am in the middle of, or haven't even started, but own the books for 40 different series. 40 series. That is absolutely ridiculous, and a goal of mine this year is to reduce that number down to less than 10. I'm hoping giving you one of these finishing series vlogs each month will enable me to do that and get on the right track. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all having a lovely start to 2025. This is my first reading vlog of 2025 and the first video of finishing series. I'm just so excited. I have 3 great books in front of me that I'm going to read for this video, and I'm just so excited to get into it. I didn't use the spinner this month because I'd already drawn my TBR and had 7 books on my TBR, and there was 4, but you would have seen in the last video that I finished after Ever Happy, 4 books that were in series, and I got some new books for Christmas that I really want to get to. And so I thought, let's be kind to myself, let's use the books in my TBR for the video, and then next month I'll probably spin the series wheel soon to try and get those series started in January. So then it helps with February, because February is quite a busy month for me. It's quite a short month, but it's quite a busy month because it's my birthday month. And so I have had to plan out my videos around going home for my birthday and family coming up to visit and stuff like that. So I need to get started on those soon. But that's jumping very far ahead. So the first book that I'm going to be reading, or I've actually started this book because I started it on audiobook, is Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. I said in a previous video that I think my words were, the disability rep in this is atrocious. I have recently been asked a comment about why I feel that way, and obviously completely understand everyone has different opinions. I did reply and say, I think the word atrocious is harsh and potentially I shouldn't have used that word. However, watching the film and reading the book, I find it really hard to disassociate them together, and I think the film is where the bad disability rep comes from, because you've got a very able-bodied man portraying a role of a disabled person. And I'm currently studying disability studies. This was something that we spoke about during that, and just how a lot of disabled people are not given jobs and roles which they are more than qualified for, but an unknown reason. And also just the disability rep of becoming disabled, and then if you've not read this book you might want to forward on because I will include a spoiler. However, this is a reread for me, so I will put a timestamp here. It is quite a well-known thing about this book, so if you're not wanting to avoid spoilers, I will put a timestamp. But the disability rep, where you've become disabled in an accident which you were very able-bodied beforehand, and now you're classed as a disabled person, and the only option you have in your brain is to want to go and commit assisted suicide. I feel like that's a very sad way to portray it. I think Jojo Moyes had the opportunity to potentially have given a better storyline than this, however didn't take that. Now, don't get me wrong, sorry about my air fryer. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoy this book. I really enjoy Jojo Moyes' writing. I can go into this book objectively knowing that not necessarily are these the best plot points, is this the best disability rep. I know that. I don't expect everyone to agree with that. I didn't have this opinion until we discussed it in a seminar. However, I do enjoy the book, and it is a reread for me, so I am going to go in and reread it. So that's book number 1. Then book number 2. Book 2 and 3 I haven't started yet, so I don't know what order I'm going to read them in. So book 2 is Rachel's Pudding Pantry by Caroline Roberts. This is about a lady who lives on a farm, her own heaven, but the farm that she lives on is in trouble, and she needs to take charge of keeping the farm afloat. Seems like quite a wholesome, cozy read. I have managed to pick up the audiobooks for all of these books, which I think would definitely help, because I'm going to tandem read them. So when I'm at the gym or going for walks, I can listen to the audiobooks and hopefully get through these books quite quickly. Because if you did see my last video, it is currently Wednesday the 8th of January, and this video goes out not this Sunday, the following Sunday, which seems like a long time, but it is quite a quick turnaround in my eyes not in terms of reading. I can read the books by then. It's more reading, filming, editing. So yeah, I'm going to try and get these done as quickly as I can. So this seems like such a cozy read, and I'm really excited for it. The font is quite nice, and I've never read any of her books. My mum's read one before. She's read one of her books before and said it was really good. So I'm excited to read this one. And then the next book I'm reading is Revenge Wears Prada by Lauren Weisberg. This is the sequel to Devil Wears Prada, and it continues on from Andy's story after this. It says that it's 10 years later, and it's about her life then. I never realised there was a sequel to Devil Wears Prada, and so this book fascinates me. And so I'm really interested to see what happens 10 years later and how the story continues, because I've seen the film, and obviously the film ends where the book ends, and so I'm really interested to see what happens next. And there's actually a third book in this story which I found on Amazon, and it was really expensive, but I have managed to find it on a library app online and got it so I can read it that way, which is really good because I don't want to pay over £30 for this book. So those are the 3 books that I'll be reading in this video. I hope you enjoy. I hope maybe you find a read from this, and yeah, let's get into it. As I said in the start clip, I have actually started Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. I started listening to it on audiobook yesterday just whilst I was at the gym. I'm currently on chapter 7, which is about 23 to 26% through, depending on whether I'm looking on my Kindle or on my Goodreads. I'm really enjoying this so far. Like I said in the start, this is a reread for me. I've said my piece about the disability rep and how I feel about that, but I do just love this story. I love Lou, I love Will, and I think they're such great characters. Will is such an unlikable character, and it just makes me like him that a little bit more, and Lou is just like a ray of sunshine, and I feel she very much embodies that person who it seems like the most annoying person in the world, and yet they will light up every single room that they walk into and make someone smile. Obviously I know what happens in this book, and I'm rereading the whole series because I feel like I've not read all 3, but I'm not sure, so I'm just rereading the whole series as I really did enjoy them the first time. When she first starts her job with looking after Will, so she's got a job as Will's carer because Will was in a bike accident previously and is now quadriplegic, paralysed from the waist down, so he now needs a carer, and his mum hired someone in more to care for his mental health and having someone there to spend time with rather than having someone to care for his needs. And so that is Lou's job. Lou's job is to look after him mentally and be a friend as such, and Will does not want that. And so the start of the book is very much Lou trying to navigate this really awkward situation where she's in this house with this man who doesn't want her there, and trying to manage those emotions, and she really needs this job for the money to support her family, and yet he doesn't want her there, and it's really awkward. I'm at the point now where they're starting to turn the corner of it, and you're starting to see a bit more of Will's personality. However, he's very much closed off, grumpy, and it's very much, I feel like this is the main grumpy to sunshine trope, because she is sunshining out of every crevice of her being. Her favourite outfit when she was younger was these glittery wellies and bumblebee tights, which, if that does not scream sunshine, I don't know what does, and he is so grumpy. I'm really looking forward to continuing on with the read. I won't say where the story's going, but I do know what happens, and I'm really happy to be back in this world, back with these characters, and I know how this book ends, and I feel like this book is the book that I'm rereading for the sake of rereading, because I want to say that I've read the whole series. However, books 2 and 3, I don't remember what happens. So this book is the book I'm rereading to set the scene for those 2 books, and so I'm really looking forward to get to those as well. I'm going to continue reading this, and I will get back to you once. By Jojo Moyes. I think a lot of what I said previously still stands, with it being a reread for the sake of rereading. This isn't my favourite book in the world. I needed to remember some of the little parts of it, and I wanted to reread it because I'm going in to read books 2 and 3. Do I remember most of the story? Yes. Did I know what happened at the end? Yes. Did I reconnect to the characters as deeply as I did the first time? No. And that's what I think let it down. So I ended up rating this book 3 stars, which is still a really good rating, and I would definitely recommend if it's a book that you want to get into, because it is a good book and Jojo Moyes' writing is really poignant. However, I feel like this is one of the books which will never hit as hard as it did the first time. The ending will never be as sad and grab you as much as it did the first time. It's one of those books which I believe when I first read it was a 5-star book and had me absolutely sobbing. Now, I did come into a little bit of difficulty yesterday in terms of my account getting into, hacked into, and so as I was listening to the end of this audiobook, I was also trying to sort that out, and so that could have played a big part into it. But I also feel like not necessarily the shock factor, because the ending is taught and kind of hinted at throughout the book, but just how sad it is didn't hit as much. The film definitely still gives that reaction, and the film definitely makes me feel that way. I am looking forward to continuing on the series. I like how the book ended, like the final end, and seeing Lou's character change and develop and adapt. I'm looking forward to book 2 and book 3, and I'm hoping they're going to be reads that I can get into that little bit more, because like I say, I really struggled to get into this book, and I do just think it's purely for the fact that I have already read it, and so throughout the whole book you know how it's going to end, and it just doesn't hit the same. You're not rooting for the characters as much as you were in but the first time you read it. 3 stars, I would recommend. I think it was a very much a 3 stars for the time of reading and my reading experience and the vibes, not necessarily 3 stars for the writing style and the story premise. I'll pass on now into book number 2. I have started book number 2 of the video, so I am currently still about halfway through Me Before You as I'm reading this book, but obviously you would have seen the ending for Me Before You already. However, I have started Rachel's Pudding Pantry. I am actually on chapter 25, which is just over halfway through, 54% of the way through. You can see that. And I'm really enjoying it. I didn't realise what the story was about, so I didn't realise it was a romance, and don't get me wrong, even reading it, I wouldn't necessarily... It's not a high stakes romance where you're reading it and it's all just about the 2 characters. This is very much a cosy fiction book of a woman whose farm is struggling, and she lives on this farm with her mum and her daughter after her dad unfortunately passed away. And it's them trying to figure out how to save this farm, who's with financial struggles. I am really enjoying it. It's such a cozy read. Don't get me wrong, there is elements of romance in there, and the main guy in it, wow. He sounds incredible. The acts of service he will do are just so sweet, so innocent. And then there was actually just a scene which she went round to ask him for something, and he was chopping some wood shirtless, and we've all seen those scenes on kind of TikTok and in movies and stuff like that, especially with the Glen Powell arc at the moment, and that country vibe that seems to be taking the world by storm, which I cannot complain about. But yeah, so that scene's just happened in the book, and it's just such a cozy read. Caroline Roberts is really making the scene kind of so that you can see it and imagine it, and you can feel what the characters are feeling. You can feel that kind of cozy farmyard lifestyle, and you can feel the worry that they're going through, that this farm might inevitably be shut down or taken away from them, and figuring out their struggles and how they're managing them and how they might overcome the financial difficulties is really interesting. I have always grown up kind of in the city. Back home is city life, however, lives quite close to countryside, however, never lived on a farm. And so I don't know this kind of life experience and how you would look after the animals, and so reading about it in such a cozy and comforting way is really interesting, and I think Caroline's done a really great job at that. And like I say, I'm now 54% of the way through, so just over halfway, and you start to see the romance trickle in from about 30%. You start to see the vibes more than anything, but this is very much a slow burn, and I thought at 30% when that vibe started, I thought, oh my gosh, here we go. They're gonna, you know how with all romance books, they're gonna end up together and then we're gonna have this awful third act conflict and stuff like that. However, that happened at 30% and then there wasn't really much, and you're going back to focusing on the farm and how they're managing that. And now at like 40% you get a little bit more, and then at 50% you get that little bit more. And so the romance is definitely like ramping up. However, it's not the main focus of this book. So if you're going into a book and you're like, I want high stakes, pure romance story, this probably isn't the book for you. However, if you want like a cozy vibe book, it's all vibes, just not really a lot of plot. Like I say, it is just about the saving of the farm. There's not a lot of high stakes in it in terms of the way it's written. Although in the actual story, there's high stakes in real life. In the way it's written, it's not that high stakes, it's not that pressure feeling. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I am going to read probably another chapter or two and then go out for a walk and try and get through as much of Me Before You as I can. So you would have already seen So if you've clocked it, I'm wearing the same jumper and I'm in the same setup as I've just filmed the wrap up for Me Before You. It's because I actually finished them both yesterday. Rachel's Pudding Pantry, 4 stars, shocked me. I didn't know what to expect going into this book, and I did say in a previous clip that it was pure vibes, no plot, and I still stand by that. I think you're rooting for the characters, you're rooting for the little family that they create. There is a character brought in slightly later on to do with the daughter that I don't necessarily feel like was needed. However, the romance definitely ramps up. When I last said to you guys, oh, the romance is only trickles in and I hope there's no like third act breakup, there is definitely some sort of end conflict, which I understand and I know why the writer did it. Did I necessarily enjoy it? No. I think the romance was so slow burn that it didn't necessarily need it, and I feel like just seeing them happy together would have been a good way to end the story. However, I do appreciate what was said and how it was done, and I don't necessarily think it the worst conflict that we've had. However, I was thinking before that happened, this book could very much be 5 stars because I've really enjoyed it. It shocked me. I didn't really know what to expect going into it. You saw in the first part of the video that I really didn't know what the book was about, and I just thought the cover just gives such cute, cozy vibes, and that's what I wanted in this book, and it delivered. However, yeah, that conflict really did kind of rub me the wrong way. I didn't like how it was handled. I didn't like how the characters handled it, and so that did unfortunately cause it its 5 stars, but 4 stars, such a cozy read. I wanted to get back to this book. I was thinking about this book and I was like, no, I need to get back and I want to sit down and I want to read this book. I woke up yesterday with the majority of the book to read, and yeah, I stayed up late last night to finish it off because I just so needed to know that everything worked out okay and that it was the happy ending that obviously we all expect from romance books. But I loved it. I really did love it, and I think Caroline Roberts' writing is so cozy, and I'm looking forward to reading the next 2 books in the series. The dilemma and the issue I've got now is the next book in the series is a Christmas book, and then the following book is a summer book. So I'm probably gonna have to like leave this series until at least October, November time, when I can start feeling like I can pick up Christmas books again, which is really sad because like I say, I did really, really enjoy this book and I would love to carry on the story. However, a summer book in the winter isn't a problem for me. A Christmas book in January, that's an issue. I would highly, highly recommend. Like I said, it was on the road to that 5 star, and then that thing happened and it was just like, I can't, because it just aggravated me so much. But I did love it, and I have now officially started The Revenge Wears Prada. You'll see me reading that in the next clip, and then I will give you my thoughts because I've only just started reading it. I'm about 10% of the way through, so not enough really to tell you my feelings and thoughts yet. I hope you guys feel the need to pick up Rachel's Pudding Pantry, as that is a book I want everyone to read who likes romance, likes like a cozy romance vibe. I loved it. moment it goes dark about 3 o'clock and it's now 4, so it's really dark in here and my lights are just overhead. But I have officially got to about the 35 to 40% mark of Revenge Wears Prada. This book is very different from The Devil Wears Prada and it's making it a surprisingly interesting read. I remember when I read the first one, in my wrap up I did explain how movie adaptations that have been made from books where I've watched the movie or the TV series first and then I've read the books, I find really hard to get into because I know what happens and it takes out that element of intrigue and surprise. So the first book fell a little flat for me in that sense. However, this book is not or has not been adapted and therefore I know nothing about it, and it's actually 10 years later. You see reoccurrences of previous characters, so you see lots of previous characters that were in the story before, you see how Andy's doing 10 years later, you see her life now, you see what she's getting up to. It's an interesting story. I can't tell you that much about it because I don't want to spoil any elements of this story. All I will say is it is very different to the first story. It's 10 years later, so it has new characters and she lives quite a different life. It's still based in New York, so you've still got kind of that atmospheric setting. However, yes, she does have a very different life. She's got a different job and there are different people around her. It's quite nostalgic to read and just to see where the movie ended and what happens next. You also get flashbacks to see what happened between the 10 years as well, because it's a 10-year jump is quite a significant jump. Obviously quite a lot has happened in Andy's life. This is an example. She starts a new business venture and you see how that business venture came about and what went in place and also what jobs she did in between Runway and now. And yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I at the moment I'm thinking it's a 3 to 4 star. I decided to listen to it on audiobook as well when I went out for my walk. I was going to start None of This Is True, which is on my TBR for this month. However, it's currently Monday and this video is due out on Sunday and I want to get this book done so I can get everything edited and uploaded. I thought I'll listen to this on audiobook as well because I've got the audiobook on Everand, and I found the audiobook experience as well really interesting and fun and easy to listen to and digest. And I do feel flicking between kind of the audiobook and reading it physically is quite easy to do. So that means that I have got through 150 pages, so like I say, not quite halfway. I do want to get to halfway tonight in the hopes of then potentially finishing it either tomorrow or Wednesday and giving my thoughts then. But I will get back to you when I finish the book and give you my final thoughts, and then we can wrap up the video. But so far, really enjoying it. Looking forward to kind of seeing where the story goes because I've kind of been introduced to like initial dilemma in the story. I'm interested to see how it kind of plays out and whether there's 2 characters in the previous book, which I'm wondering how that relationship will look in this book and whether we will see a reappearance of them or whether that relationship will change and adapt, and see whether that's for the good or the bad and how that interferes with the relationship she's got now. It's very interesting. So I would recommend, if you like The Devil Wears Prada, then I would highly recommend. I like Lauren's writing. I don't necessarily feel like you have to read the first book before you read this book if you've seen the film. If you've not seen the film and you don't know what happens in the first book, then you have to read the first book first because otherwise a lot of this wouldn't make sense. Like I say, if you don't mind that movie book scenario where you've already watched the movie and you're going to reread the book, then carry on, read the first book and then read the second one. However, if that's something you struggle with, because I know I really struggle with it, and I've spoken to a friend of mine and she's exactly the same. When she knows what happens, then I would definitely say, if you know the film and you really enjoy the film, like I love the film and I've seen it so many times I can tell you what happens in it, then I could have probably jumped straight into this book. I'm interested to see what book 3 follows as well, because I have looked inside book 3 because I managed to find it online on a library, so I did look inside, and it follows a side character of this story. So I'm very excited to see how book 3 is different and what happens in book 3 as well. I will get back to you once I've finished the book. I'm sure you'll see another clip of me reading it again soon. I'm hoping it carries on in this positive direction. Okay, I'm just sat filming TBR video for next month and I remembered that I need to actually update you guys on my thoughts of The Revenge Wears Prada. Now, I know in the last clip I said, don't mind me, I'll show you a clip of me reading, of me finishing the book, then I'll check in my thoughts. Well, that didn't happen. I ended up listening to this on audiobook whilst reading the last few pages and I loved it. I gave this book 4 stars. I thought it was such a nice story. I really liked to see Andy develop friendships with previous characters who she wasn't friends with. I like to see Andy's romance change and shift and go through all the twists and turns. I like to see what they were getting up to. I really enjoyed the characters in the first book, and so I really enjoyed this book and seeing where they were 10 years later, as well as getting cameos from old characters to answer everyone's question that no one has. Yes, the old character that I wanted to come back, which I said about in the previous clip, did come back, and yes, it was everything that I've always wanted and more. However, please tell me why. I logged this book and it's about 11:30 midnight, and I logged this book. I logged this book on Goodreads on my Kindle. I'm logging this book and I'm like, yeah, 4 stars. I'm solid on my opinion. 4 stars, loved it. Really enjoyed this book. Wasn't quite 5-star feels, but did really enjoy it and thought it was a great sequel. Also still excited to read book number 3. Why do I go on Goodreads and see its majority 1-star ratings? Okay, so now it's time to end off the video. Here are the books that we read. So in the order of the video, this one I gave 3 stars. I've said my piece. I'm looking forward to getting on to book number 2. However, this was an unnecessary reread for me. I just feel like I did waste a little bit of my time rereading this. I'm just not as much of a fan of this story as I was the first time, but I think it's because I knew the ending, so it wasn't as tear-jerking. Rachel's Pudding Pantry, I gave 4 stars, as well as Revenge Wears Prada. I've just said my piece on Revenge Wears Prada, so I won't bang on about this anymore. Should be higher than a 1-star review. Do you know, its average rating on Goodreads is 3 stars, so that is, I would say, roughly where it's at. I would say most people might think it's a 3-star book, but I loved it, so 4 stars. So 4 stars, go and pick it up. And then Rachel's Pudding Pantry, if I didn't stress this enough in my clip, please go pick this up. This book was incredible. It was a 4 stars. It was teetering on that 5-star realm, however, wasn't quite there. This is one of the books where if I was bothered to put like half stars or whatever, this would definitely be a 4.5 stars. Loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. Everyone needs to go and read this book because it is incredible. I cannot stress this enough. it was so cozy, the vibes. I want to be on the farm. I want to be there. I want to try her mum's puddings. I want all of it. That is this week's video. I hope you enjoy it. I am currently filming my TBR for next month, as well as I'm hoping to get a start of the year book tag filmed and uploaded soon. So I hope you enjoy all those things coming along. If they sound good to you, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Comment down below anything you want to comment down below, and I will see you in next week's video, which will actually be the TBR video, which is incredible. But keep an eye out because I might have posted my start of the year book tag by that point. So make sure you turn on the bell notification so you'll get notified when that comes out. But I will see you later. Bye guys.